Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first episode of Epic Experiences. I am your host, Sinitra Skillern, and I'm so excited to be able to bring this to you. So I just wanted to give a little bit of background about Epic Experiences, what it's about, how it's going to be, I guess, put together and all of that. So this is going to be a platform where people, everyday people, will come and share out of their lives. When we hear the word epic, it creates some sort of feeling. It creates a feeling of it was a good experience or a bad experience, but no matter what, it was transformative. It was something that changed your life. And so that's what this podcast is going to be all about. People coming on and sharing out of something that changed their life. Now, we're going to celebrate wins. We're going to celebrate triumphs. We're also going to hear about some things that could be hurtful, some things that we have to grow out of. But first and foremost, we are going to share, we're going to grow, and we're going to learn from one another. That is the foundation of this podcast, is that we all go through things in life, and sometimes we think we're alone, but we're not alone. And so we can learn from others who have experienced or are still experiencing something that we've gone through. And so it's just a place for us to come together and laugh, maybe sometimes cry, but sometimes we're going to come together and walk away feeling like, hey, I made a connection with a person, or I learned something about myself that I didn't know before. So that's just a snippet of what this podcast is going to be about. I'll be facilitating, asking questions, allowing people to just share out of their experiences, and then, delivering it to you through this format. And so for today, for our first epic experience, I'm going to share my own epic experience, which I believe birthed this podcast, and what is the inspiration for me to do this. So I'm going to take us back just a little bit, just give you a little history about where I was. I started out working for a corporation in Cleveland, and I've been there for about 12 years. And in the 12th year, I might have been there for a while. I had moved to different departments, different locations, and I was in accounting. And I went to school for accounting, got a job in accounting, doing all right? Okay. So around the 12th year, I had a young daughter. She was about second grade, and taking her to school, actually picking her up from school, actually. And so this is about 2010, 2011. And so end of 2010, or beginning of 2011. And so I'm dropping her off, actually picking her up. And I go up the stairs, and there's a young lady, a student at the school, coming down the stairs. And as we're, just crossing past, she's probably going to get in the car with her parent. I'm going to pick up my child. And something was just deposited in my spirit. Just, you're going to be a teacher. Something to that effect. And I just felt this thing. And so, I'm in the midst of, if you are a working parent, you're in the midst of, I got to pick up, get home, do this, do that. So everything's going through your mind. So it didn't settle in with me until the ride home later on, as I, get into some quiet time and winding down. And I'm like, what that mean? Is that real? So again, I went to school for accounting, in an accounting job, been there for a long time. In my mind, I'm retiring from this place. So I'm like, okay, it's just there, and nowhere in my mind ever was I going to teach anyone anything outside of my daughter. Okay. So, after a while, it starts to just not go away. The idea the notion, the feeling didn't go away. So I started to look at, if I wanted to change careers, how could I do that? What could I do? I'd have to go back to school. I had a business degree in accounting. I have no education connection at all. So I started looking up programs. Number one, how much it costs. Number two, the time that it would take. Remember, I have a small child. I am married. I work full time. So I'm like, Lord, I can't do this. There's no way I can do this. I have all these other responsibilities. No way can I fit school in. It's just not possible. So I put it away. I'm like, maybe it was just me frustrated with my job and thinking, I'll just go do something else. So I put it away. As I get into the 13th year of me working, at this company, things start to happen. My work performance starts to not be great. I am disillusioned with my job. And one particular meeting kind of shifted my whole mindset. I was told, I guess, what I was doing was not up to par for management. And in a meeting, I was told that they wanted 0 mistakes. They wanted perfection. And so immediately I turned around and like, well, they must be speaking to a robot, because one human telling another human that they wanted perfection. Yeah, okay. And I just kind of went from there. So that kind of changed my mind. Like, okay, this is something is happening here. And so then I started to become just disillusioned, and I felt a lot of pressure and just really began to not be happy. And so again, my mind, hey, I've been here a long time. This is what I went to school for. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to push through. It's a rough patch. No harm, no foul. Let's keep going. So as this 13th, into my 14th year of working here, it gets worse and worse. The pressure builds. I'm more unhappy. It's not jiving with me being able to pick my daughter up. There's just so many things that are creating a huge amount of pressure for me. And I just cannot shake this overwhelming feeling. So then the idea of the teaching comes back. When the Lord gives you something and it's meant for you, he doesn't, the Holy Spirit won't leave you alone. If you ever experienced that, you know exactly what I mean. It's just on you. And no matter how you try to put it out of your mind, it is there. And so I was talking to my husband one night, and I said, this has really been on my mind, and I've really been trying to think how to fit it in and how to do it, and it's just not working out. And so I don't know what to do. I don't know how this is ever going to fit in. And so we're just having a conversation. And so, fast forward about 6 months into my 13th year at this company, and they put me on a performance plan. Never have I been on a performance plan in my life ever. So I was going to have these monthly meetings where they would track my performance. We would set some goals. Did I hit them, exceed them, not meet them, so forth. So these meetings are happening, and I'm thinking for the most part, it's not stellar, but I'm still meeting the goals they're setting for me. Okay. So we go along, and about 6 months into the performance plan, this is a Friday. And so I get an invite for a meeting for Monday, and it says review, because I have these reviews every month. So I'm like, okay, so Monday, 3 o'clock, I'll have my next review. So Monday, 3 o'clock, I go into the meeting. I'm there, and, my direct supervisor is there. His boss, no, her boss is there. So we're all, and this is nothing new. And so we're sitting there, and we're looking over the steps and things like that. So, when you get paperwork, you kind of read ahead to kind of see what's coming. You kind of look through the page and see what's on the back part and all that stuff. And so I'm doing that, and I'm looking, and what I'm seeing, I'm really not comprehending. So I'm kind of tuning out what's being said to me, because I'm trying to figure out what's happening. this feels different than my normal monthly review. So as I tune back into what's being said, I hear him say, and for these reasons, we're going to have to let you go. And my immediate response was, what? Now, when I said it just like that, the look on his face was like, uh-oh, it's about to get real. But it didn't get real. I was completely shocked, completely thrown off, I'd never been fired from anything ever. It's really only my second job as an adult. So I'm like, okay, what? So the whole, they walked me. I didn't even get to go back to my desk. They went and got my coat and walked me out of the building. It was the most off-putting, embarrassing, any emotion you can have. Shock. As I'm walking to the parking garage to my car, I call one of my friends from the street and I'm like, they just fired me. And I think this person said, what? Just like I said. And so let me take a step back. In this meeting, they fire me. They tell me, all of this stuff. The one thing that my boss said to me, by this time I'd been there 14 years. And he said, because of your attitude through this entire thing, because of the way you carry yourself, the way you've just handled this entire process, we're actually going to give you a severance package. So we're going to give you a month of, how did they say it? I can't remember, but they ended up, a week of pay for every year that you've been here. So basically, I was getting 14 weeks of pay and insurance and all of that. So 14 weeks is almost 4 months. So I've just been fired, but I'm getting a severance package. Now, I don't know about being fired, but normally if it's for performance, they're not giving you any money to leave. They're giving you the papers to leave. So I'm taking that. I'm still not processing. It hasn't fully settled into my spirit at all. So I get to the car, and I immediately think, I have to tell my husband I've been fired. Oh my goodness. And he works, he was selling cars at this point. So he's at a high pressure job. I just can't call him, and he's not sitting at a desk waiting he's moving and grooving. Plus, he's in a high pressure job. So if I call and tell him this, his day is completely upside down and backwards. So I go home, I sit, and I wait for him to get home from work. Now, he doesn't get home until after 9 o'clock at night. And this was about 4 in the afternoon. I'm literally sitting at the kitchen table with this paperwork for hours, trying to process it, trying to figure it out, trying to just don't know what to do. Stunned still. So fast forward, my husband gets home that night. And so he knows something is not right. And so, what's going on, whatever. So he sits down and I say, I got something to tell you. And he's, eyes are big, like, what is happening? What's going on? And he says, no, I say, I got fired today. Again. What? So now here's a third, what is happening? So I immediately lead with, okay, I got fired, but they gave me a severance package, and I'm talking so fast. They gave me a severance package, and I'm going to be able, to get paid until the end of May, and with health benefits and everything. So he's like, okay, and he knew about the, the reviews and all of that, the performance plan and everything like that. And so I'm sitting there and defeated, not knowing what's about to happen. And my mind, I'm like, I have a college degree. I have 14 years of accounting experience. I'm going to hit this pavement tomorrow, and I'm going to find me another job. This is in my mind. At that table, my husband said to me, so what do you want to do? I said, what? I'm going to go be an accountant again. Like, what do you mean? He says, no. Do you want to start your own business? Do you want to go to school to be a teacher? Do you want to go back to accounting? Tell me what you want to do. And so in that moment, it just like breathed life back into me. And I didn't say anything right away because my knee jerk was I'm going back into the accounting field because that's what I know how to do. That's what I'm good at. That's what my degree is in. But then the nudging from the Holy Spirit. This was my opportunity. And I said, I think I want to go to school to be a teacher. I don't think I want to go back into accounting. I think that's what I want to do. I said, I don't want to regret not trying this. If it doesn't work, okay. But I don't want to do it, or I don't want to not do it and regret, not giving this a shot. He said, fine. I support you. And I think, having the 3-4 months of money still coming in my salary, because in 2012 I was making, a decent amount of money, especially to be, married and to have a combined income. It wasn't shabby. It was pretty nice. And so to still have that coming in, we could figure some things out in budget and things like that. So with that, in the fall of 2012, I go back to school in a completely new, and by this time in 2012, I'm almost 40. So I'm in school with, 20-year-olds. I literally feel like the old lady in the room. So I go through the process of going back to school for education. I was able to I didn't have to do a 4-year degree. I was able to do an alternative pathway to licensure, which means they reviewed my transcripts and told me the classes I needed to take to get to the next step. Thank you, Lord, because 4 years, traditional would have been a lot. And so I'm thankful for that opportunity as well. So while I'm in school, I'm subbing along the way to get a feel for it. Is this what I really want to do? Even though we know substituting is, gave me a little money, but it's not the real deal because you're just stepping in a day, for that teacher. So subs get a raw deal, from the class or whatever. But it gave me some, feet wet experience and seeing what it's like to be in that, role with kids and all that. So during this time before, I got my first teaching job, my dad asked me a very poignant question. He said, if, where I worked before, if they made it comfortable for you, and you just could have gone on, would you have stayed? I said, absolutely. My plan was to retire. And so he said, think about that. And I said, whoa. The word comfortable just struck me because I was uncomfortable for over a year in that last position I was in. So, just the things are falling into place to let me know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. That interaction, in that school when I was going to pick up my daughter, that was not an accident. That was on purpose to get me to my purpose. So I'm in school. I finish up the classes I needed. And in the spring of 2014, I have my first job interview. And so I'm so excited. I do a demo lesson. I'm, blah, 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 doing all this stuff. And I go in and I'm excited. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get it, but And so I go and the interviewer asked me why did I want to teach. And so I'm really sharing with her out of my, where I was and, because she knew I was in corporate America before. I was an accountant and all this stuff. And she also knew that I'd been fired. Like that was a part of my story. And so she put it back to me that she felt that because I've been fired, that this was just, her experience was people come over to teach when they're like, basically like to lick their wounds. They'll come and run and do this in the meantime. So she didn't expect me to stay in teaching. She expected me to just do this to fill a gap until I found another accounting job. So I was a bit offended, but I had to realize she didn't know me. And she didn't know who was sending me was the more important thing. So I just gave her a reassuring answer. I didn't go super deep, but I gave her a reassuring answer of, my commitment and things like that. And I was offered the job. So I got my first teaching job in math which is, I'm thinking, oh, I did accounting, so now I'm teaching math, and all these connections I'm trying to make in my head. And so I get the job, and I'm teaching 7th and 8th grade math, middle school math, which I love. If you're a middle school teacher, shouts out. We are a special group of folks, no doubt. So I'm teaching my first year, absolute 100% hell on every level, on planning, on classroom management, on everything. I cried often. I cried to my husband saying, this is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Why do I have this? Why did the Lord give this to me? And in all of that, I still didn't want to quit. Like, it was still that I'm getting up, I'm going forth, I'm doing, even though it was hard. And so then my mind goes back to the interview, and I thought, who would come and do this voluntarily unless you're called to do this? Teaching is hard. So all of that being said, it just brought it back to my mind, like, okay, just kick that out of your brain. You're in walking in your purpose. You know that this is what you are supposed to be doing. So first year, I get through it, and literally, first year teachers, that is the phrase. You are getting through it, because you have to relearn who you are. You have to learn who you are as an educator. And mind you, I am almost 40, so I am set in my ways totally. So I'm really learning who I am, really trying to, fit this square peg into this round hole and just say, how do I do this? How do I get better? End of my first year, you know what happens? I get put on a performance plan. I said, Lord, you have got to be kidding me. This is how it ended at the last job. Am I about to get put out again? This can't be happening. But my dean was so gracious, and she said, you know the content. You know math inside and out. But it was my classroom management that needed work. So that was fair, because, again, those kids were, I didn't know what I was doing. I was a first-year teacher and not an education major. Like, I had a crash course, and just didn't know what I was doing. And that's fair. That's fine. So first year happens on a performance plan. So I got these action steps and what to do and all that. Here comes second year, fall of 2015. Second thoughts in my second year. I said, you know what? I don't think this is for me. I think this was just for me to just kind of see where I'm at. Like, my whole mind had just shifted. Like, I don't know what happened in that second year, but I was like, this is not for me. I was so disillusioned by what I was figuring out education was. And that's a completely different conversation. And I'm going to leave it there. And so I'm like, yeah, no. So I said, okay, I'm still close enough to accounting. I haven't been out of it long enough that I could still get a job in accounting. So I am going to start, putting my feelers out there. So I revamped my resume, and I was on Indeed and, all these different websites putting my resume out there. I literally put out about 50 applications across the city of Cleveland. Any accounting job that I saw that I thought I was qualified for, I applied for. I got one bite out of 50 applications, and it was for Nestle. And I spoke with the person. We did like a mini phone interview. It was great. This woman was like, you would fit in perfectly. My team is at a show in wherever they were at, and I'm going to talk to them. And then when they get back, we're going to have you come in and meet the team. And I'm like, see, that's right. I'm supposed to be in accounting. That's what I went to school for. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I had convinced myself. So I didn't hear from her for about a week. Got to be about 8 days. So I emailed her, hey, just following up. Our last conversation was very promising, this, and the third. Literally, the response was like a sentence and a half. Oh, after the team returned, we decided to go with an internal candidate. Thank you for your time. What? What seems to be the theme throughout this whole thing? And so, again, air just let out of my balloon, just complete and utter deflated, like, nobody wants me as an accountant. I don't feel like I'm wanted in this education field. This is not working for me. Then the spring of 2016, so I'm ending out my second year at my school. And this didn't happen my first year, but the second year, the kids are like, Mrs. Scalern, are you coming back next year? And I'm like, this is in the middle. I'm like, do they know I'm applying for jobs? Like, how do they know? And so I would always like kind of divert the question. I would say, are you coming back next year? Yeah, I'm only in the 7th grade. I'm coming back next year. So I would always answer. I would never answer definitively. I wouldn't say anything. But I'm telling you, almost an average of 3 times a week, different kids. Hey, you coming back next year, Mrs. Scalern? Oh. And so I really felt like, okay, Lord, is this you talking to me about this? Is this you saying you do belong here? Like, why are they asking me this? What is happening? So I'm just in this quandary of feelings like, I can't possibly. So nothing pans out with the job, trying to leave education and go back into accounting. So I said, well, I guess I'll come back for a 3rd year. Okay. So I come back for my 3rd year at the same school, and it just really turned around. I mean, it's still hard. It's still working within the confines of curriculum and structure and, data and all of these things. Still difficult to navigate. But my perspective changed. And I think it's settling in my spirit finally that this is where you're supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Now, you can fight me. This is the Lord talking to me. You can fight me if you want to. But this is what I have for you. This is the plan I have for you. This is the future I have for you. And it's not going to harm you. This is for your good and my glory. So get with it, girl. And so, of course, I'm putting some Sinitra on it. But basically, that was the gist of, through prayer and through just talking with people and just really letting the Lord pour into me and really settling into, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. This. And by this, I mean being connected with middle schoolers in particular, mathematically, growing them, breaking strongholds in them, breaking stereotypes, and not stereotypes, but breaking what their perspectives are on math and building their confidence level in math. That's what this is. That's my ordained battlefield, as I learned in one of my life groups. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So, okay. Finish out my 3rd year. And okay, it was, again, like I said, still not an easy road. But the joy, the little nuggets of joy that I get from knowing that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing is what gets me up in the morning to keep doing it every single day. Tired, not tired. Burnout, not burnout. All of those things. That's what keeps me coming back every single day. The fact that I know that I know that I know I'm where God has me. I'm where I am where where he has me and where he wants me to be. So if I fast forward a bit, I am ending my 7th year in education. I am at a new school. I'm finishing my 4th year there. And I'm still on this journey. I am still, every day, I'm trying to build confidence in kids to break these math strongholds that they have, that they can't do it, that it's not for them, and things like that. And that's what drives me every single day. And they inspire me more than anything else. They are the reason why I do this. So if I connect it back to the young lady who I saw in 2011, walking down those stairs as I'm going up the stairs to get my daughter. Just that. And I didn't speak to her. She didn't speak to me. We literally just walked. But her face, I'll never forget. And she had on her little uniform and everything. But just knowing that exchange of energy or that exchange of space is what sparked all of this. And so this journey won't end. It just won't, because this is now who I am. It's who I was always going to be. I just took a little 14-year detour. Because if you told me after I spent all that time in college getting a business degree that I was going to end up teaching math, and not like it's a downplay or anything, but just that I would shift careers, I would say you crazy. I'm teaching. Oh, no. I'm not working with children. Oh, no. Every single excuse, or reason why that's not who I am. That's not what I went to school for, is what was always my response. That's not what I went to school for. I'm not doing that. And has zero to do with it today because someone else had a plan for me. And he knew it when I was taking all those steps to get to where I thought I wanted to be. Solid company. People were retiring there after working for 30, 40 years. Great retirement benefits, all of that stuff. That's where I thought I was going to end up. But God, if I can say that. And so as some of this happened, some of this is a retrospective. Of course, it was retrospective. So it happened. It didn't come to me until after things had happened, after I started putting some pieces together, after you just live, you know what I'm saying, and experience some things, then you go back and say, wow, I wonder, so this is why that happened, and this is why that happened. That's why my last year at that place was so stressful. It was the pressure point I had. That's the only way I was going to leave, is if they got rid of me, because I wasn't going to leave. I wasn't going to quit. Me being fired was necessary in my journey. And that's a hard pill to swallow, because you internalize being fired because it's someone saying that you were not good enough to keep. But God gave me a severance package. Hello. Spoke to somebody to give me 14 weeks of pay and insurance. And maybe that's happening all over the place and I just don't know about it. But it made me feel favored in that moment. And there's nothing wrong with feeling favored from the Lord. Unapologetically favored I felt in that moment, because I didn't think that ever happened. So at the end of, well, not the end of this experience, but the end of me talking about this experience with you all, I have some takeaways. And again, my journey is living and breathing. It's not over. I'm only in my 7th year. Based on my STRS statement, I have many, many, many more years to go before I can retire. But right now, my takeaways are listening to God is best. I'm reminded of, and I just forgot his name, in the belly of the whale. And he was supposed to go to Nineveh, and he went in the other direction, and the Lord had him swallowed up in the belly of the whale. And I don't know why his name escapes me. I'm sure you guys are saying it right now as you're listening. But I tried to go in the other direction. The Lord spoke to me, was telling me what to do, and I said, I'm going the other way. And I had my belly in the whale experience. And that was just not, it was necessary though. Like, it was necessary for him in the word. It was necessary for me in this real life experience. And then as I'm listening to God, asking him for his action steps. If this is what I'm supposed to be doing, Lord, tell me what to do. How do I move and groove in this? How do I walk in this? What do I do? How do I do it? The next takeaway that I've had so far, because there's many, many more than the 3 that I'm about to share. But planning is not a bad thing. I plan to go to college. I plan to have a business degree. I plan to have an emphasis in accounting. I got an accounting job. Like, none of those things are bad. I don't feel like any of that time was wasted at all. I made some beautiful friends from being there. I had some wonderful experiences being there. I don't discount that at all. It's a part of who I am. So I don't discount it at all. And finally, being uncomfortable is where and when growth happens. I was uncomfortable that last year at the company I was at. I was uncomfortable when I started school over in my late 30s. I was uncomfortable my first year teaching at my first school. I was uncomfortable at my second school when I left the first school and went to the second. I was uncomfortable. But every time I was uncomfortable is when a growth opportunity was there. And it was necessary. So I am still not comfortable with being uncomfortable. I'm a little better at it than I was before. But just human, just being a human. Um, it gets us off kilter. We just like, oh, can't I just stay in my lane, in my zone, and do what I know how to do and and that's cool in some things. But if there's a plan for you, and there's a plan for all of us to prosper us, to give us a hope and a future, then being uncomfortable is a part of that. But the good thing is, I'm riding with somebody who wrote the plan. So if I'm going to follow a plan that the Lord has for me, as uncomfortable as my flesh feels, on the inside, deep down, I got to tell that flesh, hey, I know the plan writer. I know the author and the finisher. So let's stop worrying, and let's start worshiping, and let's start praising, and let's start walking in this thing that we've been given. And so it is not going to always look like you want it to look. It's not always going to feel like you want it to feel. But when you get those breaks in that time, when you are growing in your journey, when you are growing through a change in your life, look for the joy in it, because the happiness comes and goes. Look for the joy in it. Perspective, cannot stress enough, is so super duper important. Okay? So that was my epic experience. And it's still happening. It's not over. So I'm excited for where this is going, how this is going to go. I'm excited for this new journey of this podcast and all the people that I'm going to come across that who will get to come on here and share out of their experience with you. And I can't wait to see where this is going to go and how this is going to go. And so I want to thank you all for giving me your time, listening to my epic experience. If you want to reach out, I do have an email address. It is one epic experience, the number one, epic experience @gmail.com. I do have a Facebook page. It is Epic Experiences. And there there's a button that says send email if you want to email me. I am reaching out to people whom I know personally to share their epic experiences. If you have one, if you know someone, please have them reach out to me. I am just starting out and getting my calendar together and things like that. But I am so excited to start this journey and to just see just how we can grow and celebrate and uplift and all of that on this platform together. So I thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and I cannot wait until the next time you get to hear an epic experience. Thank you.